Dr. Fauci, as you are aware, it is a crime to lie to Congress. Section 1001 of the U.S. Criminal Code creates a felony and a 5-year penalty for lying to Congress. This research matches, these are Dr. Ebright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research, done entirely in Wuhan, for which there was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans,
right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
They say we're going to take you to court. Take me. I'm from the projects. You don't know my real name. I hope Shamika Smith show up.
How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from Ecohealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2, that's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't
wait
know
a minute.
If it did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator. Those viruses are molecularly impossible to result in SARS-CoV-2
pandemic. We're saying they are gain-of-function viruses because they were animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And you
admit the truth.
And you implying...
Senator Paul, your time has expired, and I will allow witnesses who come before this committee to respond.
You are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individuals. I totally resent that. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
Get you some life insurance in case you drop dead. You done lived your whole 50, 60 years, now somebody got buried you. That ain't cool.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left.
He sent this out on Saturday, 1st of February, pretty late at night. Important is the title. It's going to Hugh Arkansas. He's his next in command under his fiefdom there. And the attachments, Barrick Shi et al., Nature Medicine, SARS, Gain of Function.pf. Hugh, it is essential. We speak this morning. Keep your cell phone on. Like, this is a big emergency. It's important. Tony. Okay. So what was that paper that caused all that stir? It's this paper, and Barrick Shi in 2015, there's a huge long paper. I'm just going to talk about this one part down here. Figure 4 is the smoking gun in this paper to me. Because they say here, although our study does not invalidate the other emergence of viruses out of natural reservoirs, emergence routes, it does argue for a third paradigm in which circulating that coronavirus pools maintain poised spike proteins that are capable of infecting humans without mutation or adaptation. In green, this hypothesis is illustrated by the ability of a chimeric virus containing the SHC-014, there it is again, spike in a SARS-CoV backbone. So what did they just do? They took SARS Classic, which they know infects humans, and they welded it to a spike protein from one of these viruses they found, presumably from that mine in China where some miners got sick and died from a SARS-like illness. So they're monkeying around, they're putting backbones and spikes together in these chimeras. So they say, again in green, quote, this hypothesis is illustrated by the ability of a chimeric virus containing the SHC-14 spike in a SARS-CoV backbone to cause robust infection in both human airway cultures and in mice without receptor binding domain adaptation. Repeat, in both human airway cultures, they're actually taking air from people who've gone through surgery, lungs get removed, they take the tissue from that, they grow it in a lab, because that's the human airway, and they can show that this Chimera virus that they made in 2015, where they took this plus this and stapled it together, can infect the human airway tissue. Well, now why was this important to Fauci? Well, that's easy, because in 2015, when this paper was put out, we were under a full gain of function research ban in the United States. Does this sound a little like gain of function research? Taking two separate parts of known human pathogens and putting together and demonstrating robust infection in human airway cultures? Sounds a little like it to me, but that's how I read it. Continuing on, in white, coupled with the observation of previously identified pathogenic coronavirus backbones, our results suggest that the starting materials required for SARS-like emergent strains are currently circulating in animal SARS. So the pieces are out there. The pieces. Wouldn't it be, instead of, and here's maybe the nicest way to look at this, they're saying instead of waiting for those pieces to accidentally come together and surprise us, why don't we put them together and then we'll know what we're dealing with, right? In yellow, continuing, quote, notably, although full-length SHC-14 coronavirus probably requires additional backbone adaptation to mediate human disease, and that's what they did. That's 2015, this paper. In 2018, 3 full, long, investigative years later, they're monkeying around with this exact combination of this spike protein, this backbone, these different strains, putting them all together, putting in furin cleavage sites, putting all of this into humanized mouse models, putting them into human airway epithelial cells, putting them into cell cultures, putting them into animal models, just playing around with this stuff. And then, oops, something looks like it probably happened. This is the absolute bombshell, point number 16 from the Drastic document. So the proposal includes the introduction of human-specific cleavage sites. In 2018, we see here that the proposal said we will analyze all SARS-CoV spike gene sequences for appropriately conserved proteolytic cleavage sites in S2 and for the presence of potential furage cleavage sites. Where clear mismatches occur, we will introduce appropriate human-specific cleavage sites and evaluate growth potential in vero cells and in HAE cultures. This is in vitro, so they were taking viruses, coronaviruses, giving them this cleavage site, which enhances their pathogenicity, and then practicing with those in cell culture, in humanized or simian cell cultures, to make sure that this enhanced the pathogenicity. Here it is, 2018, black and white, it happened.
Whoever is attacking me and attacking me is just a reflection of the politicization of what should be a purely public health issue. And it's really unfortunate. They're attacking personally me because I'm a visible person, but I'm really articulating the proper public health practices that are recommended strongly by an organization, and that organization is the CDC. So they like to pick out a certain person because they could make that person, the personification. So that kind of politicization that you just mentioned, there's no place for that when you're dealing with a public health crisis.
There was a photo of a bruised and bandaged picture of you, Senator, with a gun to your head, threatening violence.